Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, it is always good to be working with you, and there are plenty of sensible ideas that you have in your budget, particularly renewable energy, the Land and Water Conservation Fund. There are plenty of sensible ideas in your budget. My concern this morning is that forestry takes a real pounding in this budget, and my home state of Oregon is all about forests. If this proposal goes through in its present form, we're going to lose mills, we're going to lose jobs, and some of the most hard-hit communities in our country are going to lose their futures. Families are just not going to be able to get by. Now, specifically, the 1-2 punch is the $44 million reduction in hazardous fuels. This is the money that is so essential to go in there and thin out these overstocked stands and get the timber to the mills and prevent fires, get the forests, healthy again. And then in the O&C lands in southern Oregon, there's a cut of $5 million in their budget. This is for timber sales, for thinning, and responsible management. So let me take both of those up briefly, Mr. Secretary. In the second area, in southern Oregon, this proposal to cut $5 million means we're going to starve mills in Roseburg and Medford, where you have unemployment in these communities more than 14%. We are just not getting the volume up, and that's what we've got to turn around. Now, as you know, we were ones who were very encouraged by the fact that you all said, look, we're not going with the Western Oregon Plan revision, but we're going to work with you. We're going to get some real sales in southern Oregon so that these mills can get back on their feet. My concern is if we don't get the timber sales up, there aren't going to be any mills. So then if you have timber sales later on, who's going to handle them? So my first question to you, Mr. Secretary, is what can you tell us this morning about what you'll do to turn this around, get the volume up, particularly in Roseburg and Medford and these communities that were told they would see the volume ramped up under your new proposal?
Senator Wyden, I appreciate the question. And as you know, Tom Strickland, the Chief of Staff and Assistant Secretary, spent, I think, 3 or 4 days out on the ground in Oregon because of the importance of this issue to us. What I can tell you is that in 2010, we hope to be able to offer 230 million board feet, and in 2011, 185 million board feet. Our goal is to balance harvest with the protection of species habitat. We pulled together a task force that includes a number of interests in Oregon as well as federal agencies, and we are waiting for the report from that task force as to how we move forward. If I recall correctly, the last briefing that I had on that, the report was due here at the end of March. And so we are aware of the issue, and we're hopeful that the report will shed some light on the best way forward. I would like David Hayes to maybe just add a couple of sentences, if that would be okay with you.
Certainly.
Briefly.
Very briefly, I can confirm, Senator, that the task force that was set up after discussions with you last fall to help take a fresh look at how to deal with the conflicts in Southern Oregon is due to have a report to the Secretary by the end of March. There are specific sales moving forward in Southern Oregon, totaling in the next 2 months 5 sales, close to 10 million board feet since October. 14 million board feet in sales in Southern Oregon. We're very aware of the importance of continuing to push those forward, and we will work to make sure that the budget cuts do not, in fact, hinder the ability to continue the projected sales that we are anticipating.
Mr. Secretary, I don't see with these budget cuts how you're going to get close to the targets, and my concern is that this is going to be too little, too late to keep the mills open. My question here is, we're going to have some of the folks from these communities and timber industry people in Washington very shortly. Can you assign a staff person so that I and the folks from these communities and folks from the timber sector can come and meet with your people, see what we can do to turn this around?
Absolutely, and that will be, we'd be happy to have both Tom Strickland and David Hayes in that meeting, since they're very keenly aware of the issues in Oregon. And what we're doing is we're trying to find a solution here, and they are, as you know, difficult challenges. But if there are better ways of doing this, we're happy to listen, and hopefully we can figure out a
One last point very quickly, Mr. Chairman. I know my time is up. On the very significant cut in hazardous, fuels reduction, our additional concern is that the focus now is on the wildland-urban interface. We support that, but there is a tremendous amount of work that's got to be done in the backcountry. So I want to work with you again to change the budget in this area, not so we neglect the wildland-urban interface, because we share similar views on that, but we've got such a backlog of work in the backcountry. These fires, Mr. Secretary, as you know, they are infernos out there. They are not natural fires. They're coming about because of years of neglect. We got to go after the backcountry. We are glad you are at your post. We enjoy working with you. We got to turn some of these situations around in forestry.